Good morning, one and all. On behalf of Journal of Indian Speech and Hearing editorial team, I, Shwetha Prabhu, Associate Editor, would like to welcome you all to the third webinar of the webinar series hosted by JISHA. Today's webinar titled Various Search Engine Citation Tools, Reference Managers, and Plagiarism Checker for Research and Manuscript Writing. We have with us Dr. Abhishek He has completed his post-graduation from JSS Institute of Speech and Hearing and PhD from All India Institute of Speech and Hearing. He has more than 14 years of teaching and research experience. He is currently working as assistant professor in language pathology at AIISH. He has published more than 30 articles in international journals and more than 90 articles in national journals. He has co-authored more than 100 conference papers. He also has won 14 Best Paper Awards at various national and international conferences. And he has delivered more than 20 invited talks at various conferences and institutes. He has also given talks based on the research related topics. So I hope we get to learn more from him today. Over to you, Dr. Abhishek.
Thank you, Shwetha. Thank you for the kind introduction. So can I just start off? I'll just share my slides.
Please.
Share screen now. Is the slides visible?
Yes, it's visible.
Yeah.
Put it on slideshow, please.
I'll put it on slideshow. Just a minute.
Just a point to add on to the participants. Kindly type in your queries or questions in the chat box. We'll take it up at the end of the session.
Okay, so we'll start off the presentation. So the topic of the presentation is on research tools. One second. Yeah. So if you can see this particular picture now, it's the rainy season and trees fall, and in order to get rid of a particular dry log of wood or something like that, there are two ways, right? One is the conventional way where you have an axe and you cut off the tree, and the other one is to use the modern drilling machines which can fence the trees. So if you just think, why should you use this particular machine? It would minimize the human effort. Similarly, a research tool also can minimize the effort, but the thing is you need a person to operate the machine, right? So that is where the role of researcher gets emphasized. It's not that the role of the researcher gets underemphasized if you use a research tool. It's just that you have to remember that even though you're using a machine, it is the man who's controlling the machine. So with this prelude, I'll start off with the research tool. So if you see the different types of research output which one can produce, you have systematic reviews, scoping reviews, research papers, case studies, case series. All of this are based on the data which you use and how you write the paper. Like, for example, if I have to do systematic review, what I do is I gather all the articles which has been done on a particular thing, and I just collate the information and I present the information. So when it comes to a research paper, I would have carried out the data collection on participants, and I would just write the procedure. Like, I would give a prelude of the topic. I would just write regarding how I've collected the data, like on whom I've collected the data, what is my findings. I would just project it in a research paper. When it comes to a case study, it's like a case report, which would highlight the findings on, like what was the presenting complaints and what was done, like what kind of assessment or what kind of intervention was given. So when you say case series, it can be a representation of similar cases or cases with varied profiles. So each of this, like has a specific content which goes inside, but these are the different types of research output one can produce. So let's stick on to a research article as of now. And, most of you here would be knowing about the different sections which a research article would have, regardless of whichever journal. So these are the common sections, right? So you have abstract, introduction, methods, results, discussion, and conclusion. So these are the different sections in which you organize and present your information. So why I'm putting this particular basic information in my slide is that, like, when I discuss tools, I shall discuss tools for each one of it. So, like to write the introduction or to carry out review of literature, what kind of tools can be used. So, like to make your abstract better, what kind of tools can be used. So, to present your results in order to illustrate the figures or something like that, what kind of tools can be used. So, this is how I would like to present my information. And I've just added a disclaimer to it. Like I'll be discussing a lot of tools here, and I would be just telling you regarding, like what are the basic ways in which you have to log in, whether the tool is freeware or it is, something which you have to procure and all that. But I may not be able to get into the details. For example, like the reference managers, Mendeley, Zotero, etc., it can be shown hands-on regarding how it is done. But that is beyond the purview of the presentation. But, like I would just show you the basic functioning of that particular software and what each thing does and how it can be used. All right. So I've just told you regarding the different types of, like research output one can produce. And I've just told you that when you take any research article, regardless of the journal, so these are the common sections. Now, if you see what is an abstract, the abstract is a short summary of a longer work. Like it can be anything connected to your thesis, dissertation, or research paper. You just want to present the information in brief. So you just want the reader to understand. Like it's like just like this. If you want to draw an analogy, like for example, people prepare dishes, right? But they can just write briefly regarding how that particular dish is prepared. So, like in order to know what is the constituents, how this particular dish was prepared, if you just look at that particular one paragraph or two paragraph of information given in your cutlery or cookery books, that gives you an idea. Similarly, you have an abstract which gives you a short summary of a longer work. So this is how an abstract is defined. Okay, so the structure of the abstract can vary. So based on the journals, if you're taking, it's the abstracts can be divided into two types basically. One is a free flow abstract and the other one is a structured abstract. So what do you mean by that is, like when you say free flow abstract, they would have not given you some specific headings. They would not have asked you to write information under background, under aim, under objectives, under results discussion, under method, results discussion, etc. What you do is you write information in a free flow, but you just make sure that everything is specified. Everything under that is specified. So like when it comes to a structured abstract, so the information would be presented under designated headings. So you have background, under which you present the background information. You have method, under which you present the participant, stimulus, and procedure related information. So what you get to do is you tend to, like write the different sections under the designated headings when it comes to the abstract. So now if you just go to the question, like which would connect my presentation with this, are there any tools which can help you to write the abstract? Yes, there are certain AI based tools. So there is something called Scribr, WriteFulX, Spinboard, Quillboard, etc. All of this operates in, the same way. So what do I mean by same way is like, see, when it comes to anything, the algorithm for that particular tool, like how they would have configured that particular tool is almost the same for all these things. But the accuracy, the preciseness in which they present the information is, something which can vary, and the database can vary. But the basic framework or the skeleton, if I can call, so, it is the same. Now, I'll just give you an illustration. Like I've just used Scribble to, write, like I've just written my abstract, and I've just used Scribble to just organize the information. So what do I mean by that is, I have written the abstract manually, and in order to make the abstract more presentable, in order to make the the abstract more precise, specific, and concise, I have just used Scribble. I'll just show you, but I just want you to pay attention towards the abstract which has been presented in this particular slide. In the first two lines, so this particular thing, article was on native and non-native identification. So the listeners were given samples, and they were supposed to designate the samples as native and non-native. And we gave, phonemes, words, and sentences. And we gave it to, native listeners and non-native listeners. And they were asked to identify whether the samples belong to the native speakers or not. So this was the task given. So like if you see, I had written this abstract for a journal which required the abstract to be around 200 words. So then when I gave this in Scribble, the output which I got was like this. So what it did, if you see, so it basically eliminated the first two sentences. So I just told that, the native and non-native identification is challenging, but it is very important when it comes to speech and speaker recognition. So this particular thing, got eliminated. Why? Because the algorithm, for that particular thing would be in such a way, it would be written in such a way that, so the first two lines should directly start with A. There is no need to add information regarding the background. So the proponents or the makers of that particular software or tool would have written the algorithm in such a way. So what it did, it minimized the lines directly. So then what it did, the next line, where I just told you that the stimulus was presented at various levels, was highlighted here, and the target group was highlighted here, and the emphasis was more on the results. So, what kind of results did I get? And, what was the importance of the result? That is the inference. So, this was, sorry, like I just said that it was done using Scribble, but it was done using Quillbot, I'm sorry. So, yeah, this, the ultimate output which I got was around 150 words. So, this means to say that there was even word economy which was applied, and 30 words got minimized. But when you see this, and when you would feel that, okay, the abstract looks better organized and it looks specific, but there are certain things which you have to cross verify. You cannot blindly copy and paste the output which you get using Scribble or Quillbot. Why? Because I would like to illustrate one thing here. I have written in the original abstract, I have written a sentence saying that the non-native listeners found it difficult to discriminate the native and non-native speech at the phonemic level. But when it comes to this modified abstract, it has used the term struggled. So found it difficult and struggle may not be synonyms. It may look for synonyms and it may present, but sometimes it may dilute your prior premises also. So because of that, cross verification is required. You cannot just, blindly extrapolate, assuming that, okay, I've just put it under this particular tool, so what output I get is foolproof, and it is, something which is error-free, so I can use this particular output. So it doesn't operate that way. So you have to carry out cross verification. So as I told you, to just some of them would have joined now, I assume. So to just give them a quick recap of what we were discussing, I just told about the different types of research output one can produce. And, you can have different sections within a research article. And for each of the sections, there are certain designated or specific tools, right? I was discussing regarding the abstracts, and despite whether it is a like free flow abstract or a structured abstract, there are certain tools like Scribber, Rightful-X, Spinbot, Quillbot, etc., which can be used. And then I just demonstrated how a manual abstract, which is written, which is about 180 to 190 words long, is just cut brief and modified by using Quillbot. And I was also telling that, like it is better to cross verify, because certain times the particular app or software or tool, whatever you call it as, would dilute the premise. It would not, like it would produce some output which you may not mean, or the premise can get changed. So because of all this, cross verification is required. All right. So if we go to the next section, which is on review of literature. So, say like when you say introduction, and like if you're just thinking has written introduction / review of literature, what does it mean? So like, most of the journals, or I can say 90-95% of the journals, doesn't have a specific section on review of literature. Everything is covered under the heading introduction, right? But what you carry out here is literature search. So you have two types here. One, you have, like something called literature search, and you have some tools which can carry out knowledge maps. So subsequently, I'll be telling you about what is knowledge map and other things. But as of now, for introduction, you have to carry out a literature search. So there are certain tools which can be used for the same. And, like you have certain tools which can produce or which can give you knowledge maps. So in order to carry out literature search, you have different tools. What are they, if you see? Like PubMed, Google Scholar, Insight. So these are the various search engines. So if you are just thinking, like what novel thing is there in this particular thing? So it is not like, see, when it comes to search engines, it is better to go with something which is reputed than novel, because you at the end of the day, like the database should be wide, right? So when the database is wide, the chances of you getting more information, the chance of you getting accurate information would be better. So it's not that, like I'm presenting some search engine which is more, see, apart from this, you have something called a semantic scholar. Like there are various, you have Ibesco. So, like you have various search engines there also. It's not like, and the other question which I, get frequently when I present on this particular topic is that, so which search engine is better? There is nothing like, the best or the gold standard search engine. It's just that when it comes to my purpose, it is better to search on multiple search engines and get the desired output, what one is expected to get. So there is nothing called gold standard here. All right. Now, like when you carry out information search on, like search engine, how does it go? I'll just illustrate, like using PubMed. So all of you would have used PubMed, and you have something called PubMed Central. So first, your PubMed search goes with, giving the keywords. Suppose, like I just want to give something on lexical access. So I just want to see how is lexical access in persons with aphasia. So, like in order to find out this, I should know what are the, like keywords which I'm supposed to give. There can be words like naming, there can be words like paraphasia, there can be, ultimately what I'm trying to search is, I'm just trying to search by the virtue of the keywords. So what do? There will be a search bar, and I just go and enter the keywords. So, but when it comes to the keywords, like what kind of keywords you give also is a trick. What do I mean by that is, if you give a very generic, like keyword, what do I mean by a generic keyword? If I just say aphasia, I'll get umpty number of articles. So in order to get, like specific information, it is always better to give specific keywords, right? So there are certain tricks, or there are certain strategies which one has to follow by carrying out a PubMed search also. I'll tell about that now. But so for at the beginning, in order to start PubMed research, it doesn't ask you to register information or, like log in through any given ID or something like that. It is just that you have to enter your basic details. Sorry, it is just that you have to enter the basic keywords. And once you do that, like you may get n number of, things. But I just want to, like see for specific things. So that is when I use PubMed filters. Like to just give you an example. So I go on Amazon and I just, type shirts. When I just type, I get n number of, things. So I just get t-shirts, I get formal shirts, I get casual shirts, everything comes, right? But if I want to be more specific, what do? I will, filter. When I just apply a filter on Amazon, it's like I can filter based on the type of shirt, based on the type of delivery. If I want something tomorrow itself, I can go with the options which shows 1 day delivery. If I just need something, after a week or so, then I can just go with something which I can have after a week also. So, and even in terms of cost, you can apply the filters. Similarly, when it comes to PubMed also, you have certain filters. If you see, like yeah, generally when people search, they don't apply filters. Like what do you mean by applying filters? Is it's just like you give the best match. You give there are certain filters like best match, the most recent publication date, first author, journal, etc. So if you give all this
What
filter,
song is that?
so what, like when you apply these filters, what would happen is the chances of getting some specific information would be more. So what do I mean by that? Suppose I just want to search for articles in the last 10 years. Some of the journals would require me to present the review of literature for the last 10 years, 15 years, assuming that what all studies have been carried out in the past may not be that significant because of methodological difference or something like that. Let's assume that I'm taking a topic, something on ERPs or something like that. So, after before 20 years, 20 years, 30 years, the way they would have done it or something like that would be different. So I find that it is relevant, or it is enough for me to just, go with a literature search for the last 10 years. So what would I do? I would just apply the filter for last 10 years. So that would give me some specific thing. If I know some specific information, as in, so in which article, in which volume it was published, even that kind of information can be given. So now I just want to see some articles which has been published in Spanish, Madrid, etc. So, for example, if I'm exploring a topic on phonological awareness, that it is language sensitive. So I just want to search in only alpha syllabic language or alphabetic language or whatever. So that is when I can, see. And even I can filter the journals also. But when it comes to journal filters and all that, I may not get 100% accurate output. So, but as of now, you can apply filters. When you apply filters, the chances of you getting precise information would be no. Next thing is, there are certain, in order to avoid iterative process. What do you mean by iterative processes? The same thing may be repeated time and again, or, something like which is not relevant, or something which is not needed also may get, popped when you search. So in order to avoid all this, there are certain, there are certain special keys, they call it as, so which can be used. One is, you can use a quotation mark. So for example, I just told phonological awareness. What I put here is blood pressure, but to just make it more closely related to what we are doing. So if you have to say phonological awareness, they will not be treated as two different words. When you say awareness, awareness can be generic, and when you say phonological awareness, the word phonologic also can be used in different contexts. You have phonological neighboring, neighborhood, all these things are there, right? So you want to just carry out search in such a way that two or three keywords are indicated within a particular phrase. That is when you can use the double inverted commas. You can use the double inverted commas so that everything will be searched as one entity. So in order to search anything as one entity, you can use quotation mark. And in the search engine, there is provision of using an asterisk. When you use an asterisk, that particular word, whatever keyword you give it as. So for example, if I give cardiovascular, so words, articles which would start with that particular keyword would only pop up. So in order to make it more specific, you use certain, special keys, and out of that, quotation and asterisk also can be used. Along with that, you have something called and or. Like, what do you mean by and or is, so when you say and, you get like results with respect to two things. For example, I just want to see lexical access in aphasia and dementia. So that is when I use the term and I get articles relevant to both. So when you say or, like at least one you would get, like lexical access in aphasia or lexical access in dementia. You get some specific, like based on where there is more research, based on where, like there are more articles, you will get those things. I hope you understood. So this is how like you tend to use the special keys in order to avoid the iterative process. Along with this, there are certain other iterative, special keys also, but I've just highlighted the ones which can be used. So this is how. First, I'd like to just give you a quick summary. First, you give the keywords, and once you give the keywords, you get a number of things, and then you apply filters in order to get specific information. You can also use like special keys in order to get the search starting from a particular word, or the and or option which I just like explained. So this is how you tend to make your search more specific by using a search engine. Okay, so I told you that there is something called knowledge map. Okay, so in order to understand knowledge map, I'll just give you a quick example. So now most of you use music apps. It can be Amazon Music app, Spotify, etc. So suppose you search for a particular genre of music. So it can be something like slow music. It can be something like rap. It can be something like your desi music, tapanguchi, or whatever you go with. So when you search one, what will happen automatically when you open that particular thing, the thing itself will suggest that these are the other things. Like I assume that most of you have experienced this, right? So when you just search for something, like for example, if you just search for like a particular thing, even on Amazon, so like other things related to it also gets popped up. Similarly, you have something called as knowledge maps. So there are certain tools like Research Rabbit, Connected Papers, and Laterals. So and again, there is a particular question which most of them ask, which is freeware and which is paid. Like it's like this, all of this will have a basic version which can be accessed for free. Like around 5 articles or 5 maps can be created per month using the free version. If you use the premium version, it's like you can see you can get more knowledge maps. So this is how this operates. So it's again with the same analogy, like by using Hotstar or something like that, you can basically watch the things. But if you want it ad free, if you want to watch the premium content, you have to subscribe, isn't it? So the same way, the knowledge maps also will have a premium subscription. So these are the things. So now I would just show you on how Research Rabbit would work, because out of the 3 tools which I've quoted, Research Rabbit is something which is more commonly used. They say that it is a citation based literature mapping tool. So the scope of the tool is to optimize the time required for searching. See, if I carry out a manual searching, it may take me time to search for each paper. So if I use certain tools, again, I can minimize time. So this is something which, where the concept of time economy is developed. So in order to go with this particular thing, what you have to do is you have to initially, enter a seed paper. What do you mean by seed paper? Is basic paper based on which you have to carry out the search. Like as I told you, in Spotify, for it to understand what kind of music you like, so first you have to just enter the first thing, right? So like without entering the first thing, we thing will not understand what kind of music you are interested in. Similarly, when it comes to Research Rabbit also, you have something called as seed paper. So first, when you enter the seed paper, it will show you the things based on the seed paper. So in order to go with this particular tool, you have to start off with creating an account. You'll have to add the seed paper. Then you would get visual map. And then, this visual map will enable or facilitate you to build up references. What do I mean by that? So when I hope the first 2 processes, I'm sorry for the figure which is low on resolution. I'll just tell you the mechanism. So here, what happens is after you create a paper, create an account and add the seed paper, it will show you papers of similar interest. If you think how this particular thing is searched, so the basic answer to it is it will search for keywords, and it will also search for something called as co-citation. What do you mean by co-citation? In the paper which you would have entered, there would be some say 10, 15, 20 references, right? So based on that particular reference, it will automatically access the paper, the next paper. So the next paper also can have some shared references. So whichever paper has maximum number of citation, like for example, I'm entering one seed paper. That seed paper has 10 to 15 references, but when it looks at the first paper, it can have some, again, it can have 10 to 15 references, but there are some references which can be common. So when it comes to this, by the virtue of this, by the virtue of common references, it develops something called as force directed graph, and it is affiliated to semantic scholar directly. So if you can see this, I admit that the figure is of low resolution, but you can see these things which are proximally placed and which are distally placed, and you can see some circles which are big, and you can see some circles which are small in terms of its circumference, right? So what does it mean is, if there is more of co-citation, there is chances of that particular references being indicated in a circle with a bigger circumference. So if there are only one or two co-citations, it can show it in a distal way, and it can just show it in a circle with small circumference. That itself will tell me, which articles can be more important and which articles can be less important when it comes to my search process. So this is the thing. This is how the algorithms are constructed for the research rabbit. And as I told you, the free version has around five articles which can be accessed free, and after that, if you have to use, you have to go with the premium version. So this is better, and it gives the information with respect to, I told you that it is based on co-citation, right? So what it will highlight is, it will highlight the the name of the authors. So when it comes to the name of the authors, there can be some authors like Redmond, for example, in this particular thing, which has been quoted in 7 to 8 articles. So it is showing here, and along in the same article which has been quoting Redmond, so Christenen also may be cited. Because of that, it is showing within the circumference of the same circle. So this is how the research rabbit works. So you'll have to create an account, you'll have to enter the seed paper, and then you have to go ahead with. So now I've told you about the tools which can be used for literature search. For literature search, it is the conventional tools, like your Google Scholar, like your PubMed, which can be used for this purpose. Also, when it comes to this, knowledge maps, you have something called as connected papers, you have something called as research rabbit, and almost, the terms are different, but what purpose it does, what kind of output it gives is almost same. So this is a output which is generated by using research rabbit, and this is something which is generated by using connected papers. You can see that the mechanism would remain the same, but few finer things can change. So these are the tools which you can use for developing knowledge maps. The next thing is the tools which can be used for writing. So what do I mean by that? Does it write from scratch? If you see, again, you can have some tools which can write from scratch, but it is always better to use original form of writing, and just use these tools for improvising your paper. So this is better. So you can use your tools like Paperpal, Quillboard, Grammarly. So the same tools which I just showed you under the abstract section can be used for writing also, but each of it can have a different purpose. So when I use Quillboard, Grammarly, etc., so we are prone to make grammatical mistakes, isn't it? So whatever line which we make, when we read that particular line, we feel that okay, the understood, but it can be in passive sentence. There could be a grammatical mistake, there could be variation in terms of the person number, gender markers, which one would have used. All these kind of errors are susceptible. So in order to avoid such errors, you can use tools which are specialized in grammatical writing. And again, when it comes to Grammarly, you have a free basic version and you have a premium version also. The same thing applies for Quillboard as well. So when it comes to, like paper PAL, you have a student version and veteran version. So this is a different nomenclature used to, like indicate the basic version and the advanced version, which Grammarly uses. But these are the two versions one should be aware. When you say student version, it's a free version, which is free in nature. So like if you see what kind of services are available, translation services are available in most of it. Even in PaperPal, even in Grammarly and Quillboard, there is translation service. So for example, if you're, but if you ask whether it is sensitive to the languages used in India, so like I don't think so. Like as far as PaperPal and this is concerned, like it may not have the Indian content as such, but so some languages which are used were, globally, like Chinese, Spanish, Mandarin. So such things it may have translation, but I think they are developing within the languages which are available within a particular country. I'm not sure regarding this. So next thing is paraphrasing. What do you mean by paraphrasing? Is when you write a particular line, like you may be prone to plagiarism. So like if you just write it in the same way as the authors of that particular thing would have used. So in order to paraphrase also, you can use certain things. And contextual synonyms. Like what do you mean by contextual synonyms? Is like words which gives the same meaning, right? So for example, if I just say conducted, carried out, administered, there can be a subtle difference between these words, but at least the words would remain common in terms of its meaning. So the contextual synonyms also can be searched by using this particular search engines. And you have something called as disk rejection. Just because the article is not matching the the language, or in terms of because of all these things it may be rejected. So another reason for disk rejection is that when you don't adhere to the journal format, that is when they can reject also. But one of the reasons for having a disk rejection is when the thing is poorly written, or when it is grammatically very poor. So in such cases, you can use tools like PaperPal, Grammarly, etc. And like again, Quillboard and Grammarly doesn't vary in terms of its basic structure, and the modules are very much similar to PaperPal, which I just showed you. You have grammar check, you have AI text summarizer. So this is something which some of these tools have this is a new feature which is introduced after all this the recent developments. So where you have all this ask chat GPT and all that, right? After that, Quillboard, Grammarly, etc., has introduced a particular module where you can enter the information and it can summarize the text for you. But the plagiarism tool is sensitive for identifying such things also, that I shall tell you subsequently. But as of now, these tools can be used to summarize the text as well. And see, as they say, when there is a problem, when they create a problem, when they create virus, they create antivirus also, right? Similarly, when they create AI text summarizer, they also have a plagiarism scan or AI detector, which can identify whether you have copied from an AI source. It's like virus and antivirus. So Quillboard and Grammarly houses this feature also, and it has language translator as well. Okay. Along with this, in the heading, we had skipped this, but in the heading of the webinar. So, but there is something called as a tool for constructing figures. There is something like JASP, Prism, Jamovi, etc., which can be used to develop a so which can be used to develop figures which are more appealing, which are more visually appealing. If you use Excel, SPSS and all that, you may get conventional figures. In order to make it more appealing as well as formal, you can use certain tools also. And as I've told you in the disclaimer, I'm not getting into the details of everything, but this is just to for your information, saying that there are certain tools which can be used to construct figures which can be used in the journal article as well. Yeah. Slides are not there. Just give me a minute. Slide and stuck. Slide stuck. Okay. I'm sorry for the interruption. See, like along with the tools which I showed, I just showed you tools for, making your abstract better, to, get, to make your errors grammatically free. To make your errors, to make your article free of grammatical errors. I showed you about the articles which can be used as search engines for searching articles, as well as for developing knowledge maps, etc. So this is something which I thought I shall share this particular information. For amateur readers, there is something called chat PDF. This works on similar lines as chat GPT. What you have to do is, as soon as you download this particular chat PDF, it will ask you to enter your username and password. Following that, so I can just upload a particular PDF of a particular article. So let's say that there is an article published in Brain and Language, a physiology. I can I can upload that particular article. So as soon as I upload that particular article, I can even apply the URL of that particular article also. So then what do I do is, I can ask queries. Like I can ask this particular tool to summarize this particular section. I don't know if this particular issue has been addressed or not. So when I just said that, as this article discussed about the naming errors, so it may pop up that particular section where the naming errors are highlighted, and these things are equipped with the summary feature also. So it would present the information in much simpler version, and you have this chat PDF also. But the accuracy at which it presents the information, as I said, again is questionable, and you have to cross verify. So we just tried chat PDF a while back, and when we asked to summarize the article, the summary what it gave was a little different from what the article had the original article had given. So that means to say that there was a kind of extrapolation. So when you're an amateur reader, there are chances that you get carried away. Like when you are a veteran reader, or at least when you can identify, you can see that okay, there is a discrepancy. See, no tool can be blindly believed, or it can be used as it is. So it is just that there are so many tools, but all the tools should be used with caution. That is what I would like to tell you. So for amateur readers, we were just telling you that there is something called as the chat PDF, where you are providing the PDF of the article, or you're providing the URL of it, and you're asking the queries, and you're asking the chat PDF to summarize the article. And I told you that it should be used with caution. So the last part of the presentation is on reference managers. You have Zotero, Mendeley, etc. So there, some of these reference managers are free. So what you have to do is, you have to basically upload them based on the version of the Windows which you are using. And then what you can do is, for example, I'm uploading Mendeley. So I have to, upload the plugin. I have to, as you install any software to your thing, you have to install Mendeley also. Then what do? You can automatically generate the bibliographies. And there are two ways of doing it. One is, there is a drag and drop option, where you just want to find the details of a particular author, you can drag and drop. And another one is, there is an importing papers option. So for example, you would have referred to 15 articles, 20 articles to write the paper. So you can enter all the PDF version of that particular article, and then so it can automatically generate the reference in the format what you give. What do I mean by format is, some journals would ask you information in Vancouver, some would ask you in APA, some would ask you in NLM, MLA, etc. Right? So based on the format, so it can just synthesize the information regarding the author's name, the name of the article, the journal in which it is published in, the volume, issue, specific page, and it can give you the reference. And you can access the papers. You can just upload all these papers, and it can give you this information. Or the other option is to drag and drop the author's name. So it gives the information, and then you can select the specific format in which you need the information, and you can upload the same. So this is how the reference managers work. So actually reference manager itself is, like 1 hour session, because I'm like in the recent thing I've just spoken on, like I had one more talk which was on reference managers itself. That itself is like a 1 hour talk. So due to the time constraint, I may not be able to tell you how it works, but this is how. These are the two mechanisms. One is by drag and drop, and another one is importing option, the Mendeley, and works. And Zotero also works in the similar format. And sometimes, like you may not get a source for your information. In order to get the source of the information also, you can use Zotero, you can use Mendeley, etc. Okay, so again, I found a very interesting thing regarding the differences between Mendeley and Zen, like Zotero. So when it comes to the usage, both of it is, like easy to use, and Mendeley requires you to have a desktop version. As I told you, like you have based on the version of the Windows which you're using, so you should install a desktop version. Whereas when it comes to Zotero, through your search engine itself, you can use. Next, the installation information is given in the slides, and probably with like the permission of Chair Publications, the slides also can be shared with people who have registered. You can go through this also. And next one is when it comes to the cost, both of it, the basic software is free in both Mendeley as well as Zotero. And when it comes to the inbuilt storage capacity, Mendeley has more storage when compared to Zotero. And like for tech, like whether see any software which you use as a reference manager should give you in-text citation. It should also trace references from your footnotes and also from bibliography. So this feature is present in both Mendeley as well as Zotero. So along with this, there is something called as plagiarism checkers. What do you mean by plagiarism checkers? See, what do you mean by plagiarism? Like the definition goes like this: presenting work or ideas from another source as your own. So it's not your own, but you're trying to present it as your own. That is when the issue of plagiarism comes. And there are certain free tools and paid tools which can be used to identify plagiarism. In order to identify whether your content is plagiarized or original, you can use certain plagiarism checks. So again, as I told you, there are certain basic versions and there are certain advanced versions which your institute, or it can be let's say it can be equipped by an individual or an institute. So when it comes to plagiarism, there are different types of plagiarism. Just before continuing, may I know how much time I have? And I have another 5 minutes.
Yeah, Abhishek, you can continue.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So like when it comes to plagiarism, I thought it would be like important for me to just tell you what are the different types of plagiarism, even though it falls like beyond the purview of my presentation. You have something called as word-to-word plagiarism, where you directly copy the thing and paraphrase. What you do, like some people think that if you just change the is, are in between, it will avoid plagiarism. It's not like that. Like if 5, 6 words are there, even if you change 1 or 2 words and the other 4 words are common, so then also it will show as plagiarized. What do you mean by plagiarism as secondary resources? Like you would have taken you would have like not referred to a particular article, you would have referred to some other article, and you would have quoted this particular study. So when you do that, it will show as plagiarism of secondary references. Okay, similarly you have plagiarism of ideas, plagiarism of authorship. So there are various ways in which the content can go plagiarized, and all these search engines, what they would have developed till date, would have incorporated all these different types of plagiarism. Based on all these types of plagiarism, they would have configured the tool. So like when it comes to the thing which are gold standard or which is good, like there are many plagiarism. Let's say like I cannot tell you which plagiarism tool is good or which is gold standard, but still like there are some things like Turnitin, iAuthenticate, where you feel that like the database is wide, but there are n number of tools. I've just taken this from a published article where they have compared tools. Again, there are some tools which can be free also. For example, there is something called dupli checker. There is something called Q text. So all this can be uploaded automatically. Like what you can do is like it doesn't require you to install that particular thing also. You go on a particular search engine, you just say free plagiarism check, or you go with the names of this. So you just say that screen plagiarism in Q text. So this particular thing will come up. So what you do is you generally, write these things. What you generally do is you just copy paste your content and you copy paste it into the space given there. So once it once you copy and paste that particular thing, what it does is it carries out a plagiarism check. But something which you have to be very careful and vigilant is, so this free versions may not have a wide database. If you have copied and pasted from one particular thing also, it may not be sensitive in identifying. Why is this feature important? So isn't it better if it shows less plagiarism? If you're thinking, you might have carried out a plagiarism check from your end, but when you send an article to a publisher, they may not believe what plagiarism check which you have used. They might have their own tool. So what they do is they tend to screen it in their their by using their tool. So when they screen, when there is discrepancy, where you have screened, it is showing 0%, but where they have screened, it is showing 20% or 30%. That is where they feel that they feel that okay, something is fishy. So this particular person has followed a shortcut in order to make. So they might feel, they may not feel. You may not know what the person is thinking, but it may not give you a good impression. So when you're using a plagiarism check tool, it is better to use tools which are which are reputed. And again, here I've just as I highlighted the difference between Mendeley and Zotero, I've just put a tabular, I've just put a table representation where I've just come, where each tool is compared in terms of its pros and cons. The con, which they say with respect to Turnitin, is it is expensive and it is also subjected to false positive. That is what they say. When it comes to Grammarly, along with the grammar corrections, it also has a version which can be used for plagiarism check, as I told you. And this Turnitin, Grammarly, etc. has AI detection checker also. And when it comes to this Copyscape, it has a very limited database. When it comes to plagiarism checker, it has a limited database. And all this are free. And you have something called as dupli checker, where you have both free version as well as this. But if you go with the premium version, it has a better database, but when you go with the free version, it has a limited database. So one thing what I want you people to focus on is the database. If the database is limited, even though you have copied and pasted, it may not show. So some database may be limited to 2022, after which they would have not upgraded. So if you just copy and paste a recent article, it may not show as plagiarism. So all these kind of possibilities are there. So you have to be careful in identifying the tool which is used for plagiarism check. So this is what I urge. And along with this, some of the has AI detection thing, and for example, there is something break.ai, so which can tell you about whether you have used any AI features in order to think. See, when you use AI, what generally people think is it may not get within the radar of the plagiarism check or software, is what people think. But people are also thinking in par with what researchers are thinking. They have introduced the AI detection feature also, which can identify whether you have just taken it from a AI source. So, but if you just ask me, AI, is it, then does that mean that AI should not be used? AI can be used, but to some extent with vigilance, and not the exact copy of paste what the AI think. So I should use my consensus in order to make sure that, okay, so this content can be used. So this is about the plagiarism check and the newly equipped AI detection features. Now, instead of putting a lengthy summary, I just thought of putting this particular picture from Times of India, where a particular hand controlling a robot is given. So you can see that there are certain threads through which this particular machine or robot is being controlled, but it should not be the other way around. That is, the machine or robot controlling us. So with this, I would, what I mean to say is, like, as researchers, we have to have our consensus. We should know that these are the tools available when it comes to technology, but it's not that you use all these tools for wrong work, but you have to use these tools to some extent, but it doesn't mean that these tools itself should control your research paper. So by saying this, I would like to conclude my talk, and I would address the questions what you people would ask.
Thank you, Dr. Abhishek. I request everyone to fill the feedback form. Meanwhile, we'll take up the questions. I request everyone to type in the questions in the chat box. I think we have few questions already. We'll start off. Is that okay? Dr. Abhishek?
Yeah, I'll just address the question one by one if I just go.
Yeah. You want me to read out? The first one, does the journal inform the author that the desk rejection was due to grammatical or language error, or would they sugarcoat it?
Sugarcoat is the word. Yes, they would just say that, we found that the article is very interesting, and but however, it may not match within the purview of our journal. So we suggest you to send it elsewhere. So they will, desk rejection, they will not cite that the but some, accurately speaking, they should say, even though they sugarcoat by using one or two sentences, they have to just tell that why they have rejected. Because if it goes unidentified, when the person is sending to some other journal, so what will happen is the person will not be sensitive enough to identify that, okay, my grammar was poor, because of that it got rejected. So it should be reflected. But as you said, there are certain, as Vishnu Saravana has used the word sugarcoat. Yes, they do it, but actually the correct practice is to cite why they have, rejected the article.
Yeah. Okay. The next question, the seed paper, do we submit the entire paper?
The seed paper, there are two options. One, you can go with upload the PDF of that particular article, or the URL. So URL is the equivalent of the PDF paper itself, provided that it is an open access paper. Why it should be open access is, if it is not open access, and the references, as I told you, all these things are based on co-citation, right? So for the thing to know that this is the references, or this is it is better to enter the open access papers, and at least the seed paper which you enter must be entered through PDF option. There is importing option, and there is a URL entering option, so through which you can enter the seed paper.
Okay.
JAS, Prism, etc. They help in generating graphs. Yes, there are some. They have some basic statistical tool as well, and they also can be used to generate the graphs.
Okay. In Mendeley, if we import a list of references, can it convert it to the desired format? I think they're saying about API.
Yes, yes. I'll just read the question 1 second. In Mendeley, if we import the references, can convert into the desired. Yes, converting into the desired format is there. See, you have some, when you can open a Word version in your Mendeley itself. There is an option. There is a window at the, say midmost corner. So there is a window where you can select the format. So for example, I would have just made it in API format, and then I have to convert it into NLM format. It does automatically. There is such provision in Mendeley.
Also count plagiarism?
Yeah, does reference also count in plagiarism? When it comes to references, any tool for that matter will have options to exclude bibliography or references in plagiarism. Ideally, they should select if there is a as an editor, you must select exclude bibliography as the thing. But if you don't exclude the bibliography, there are chances that the references also can show as plagiarism. So it is based on the tool which you select, but most of these tools which I presented will have the option of excluding the references. So ideally, an editor should exclude the references and carry out the plagiarism check.
Okay, interesting one. And any AI tool for statistical analysis?
Statistical analysis, as I see, like it can suggest what tests can be used and other things. But like as I understand, like there are no tools which can, like if I just give the data, it can carry out statistical, at least till now. But it can suggest, like for example, counting the number of independent variables and dependent variables. Like I will, there are certain things, like for example, the chat.pdf, which I just showed you. So like there are certain chat GPT tools where you can enter the number of independent variables, dependent variables. It can suggest, okay, you have to carry out, like ANOVA if the data is parametric. If the data is non-parametric, you'll have to go with Kruskal values followed by Manhattan. It can suggest, but it will not, I mean, as far as I enter, it doesn't do it for you.
Okay. Should authors also use plagiarism check tools, or is it more for the journal editors?
Like see, madam, I feel that the authors also should use plagiarism check before, like if it is available, because you will get to know where you stand. Like for example, you're just sending a paper to JISHA. It is not mandatory for you to enter, but at least for me to know, like knowingly, unknowingly, I would have just written a particular sentence that would have some resemblance with a published paper. So for students, what I suggest in this regard is, if you have the provision, it is always better, and counteract plagiarism. See, like sometimes, as I told you, the desk rejection, when the plagiarism is high also, they can just reject the paper. If you don't screen the paper for plagiarism and you send it straight away, there are chances of desk rejection happening for this reason also. So that's the reason as to why, like it would be better to carry out the plagiarism check at the individual level before sending it to the institutes. I mean, before sending it to the journals.
Yes. Is there any list of journals free to publish without any APC?
See, you'll have to, like actually you have like a list of journals which are like predatory journals. Like for example, there is something called as predatory journals, which most of you would know. In order to know which journal is predatory and which journal is not, you can use tools. Like the tools operates in a very like low tech manner. So what it does is, it has a PDF list, and you have to just upload you have to download the PDF, and you have to search the journal's name. If it is there in that, it is predatory. If it is not there in that, it is not predatory, is the assumption, but it is not 100% accurate. But here the question is, without any article processing charges, I think it has to be searched on the journal website itself. Like I don't, like somebody on their interest, they would have just done a particular table. For example, for linguistics journals, as I know, they have done an Excel sheet. If you just say list of linguistics journals which are which are Scopus indexed, you get all these journals, and there you can see if there is any APC or it is free of cost. But for speech and hearing journals, I have not found anything on my experience. But the way which I do it is to just go to the journal homepage and search if it is free or like it is paid.
Okay. Could you throw more light on iSearch Science software, which when combined with the use of GPT-4 helps to analyze the relevance of articles to your search questions?
1 second, I think I missed this question.
It's Dr. Anuradha Sharma.
Anuradha Sharma. Could you throw more light on research science softwares which can be combined with the use of ChatGPT to the relevance of articles to your search question? Madam, again, the mechanism to do it is through, like the things which I just showed you. Like, see, ChatGPT can just give me the summary, or it can just tell me. But whether the research question, what research question I have taken, and what knowledge maps, like the connected papers or research rabbit has used, I cannot correlate. Like, see, how do I get to know is when I manually, like go search that article, see that article, I will get to know. But many a times, so there was one instance where I had used Research Rabbit and it had showed some references, but when I just went and saw, like it was not relevant 100%. So anything, like I don't know, can be clubbed with ChatGPT and check the relevance. But what I feel is, like once you deduce that these are the papers, it's better to at least read the abstract and take a call.
Okay. For a systematic review, how do you download references from Google Scholar, and is the search strategy should be tuned specifically?
say like when it comes to systematic review, what happens is you would have just referred through your search engine, you would have already searched, and you would have just refined and kept your references, right? So after as I told you, what the best way of getting the citation for this systematic review is to import the references, because I would have just gone through in systematic review. What would have happened is, in order to write my basic structure of the paper itself, I would have gone through in depth. So because of that, I would have uploaded the full version, I would have read the full version. Assuming I would keep it in a folder, and I would import it in Zotero or Mendeley. When I do that, I will get to know. But here I misinterpreted the question, I assume. So how do you download references from Google Scholar? So this is the answer for the first part of the question. Regarding the second, is the search strategy should be tuned specifically. That is where you have to apply filters, and you also have to carry out a manual check. See, here, for the purpose of curiosity, there were instances where we applied, the
I think you're not audible. There's some network issue. Dr. Abhishek, can you hear? Sorry, just a second.
Shwetha, due to some internet issue, it has got disconnected. He is connected now.
Oh,
to hear me now? There was some problem with JISHA office. Because of that, the internet got calmed off.
okay, we can hear you. I think we can continue. Can you hear?
ಹಂಗೆ ಬರ್ತದೆ ಕನೆಕ್ಟಿಂಗ್.
Okay. Yeah, shall we continue?
Yes.
Okay. So again, the same question is repeated. Sir, anything for statistical analysis? That's a vague question.
I'm not able to see what was the question.
Anything for statistical analysis? Is it in terms of AI tool or what? I'm not very sure. It is just asking, is there anything for statistical analysis? The same question previously, it was answered. I think we'll move on to the next question. Is there any list of journals free to publish without any APC? Again, the question is repeated. Okay, the next question. Dr. Abhishek, are you there?
Hello.
Yeah, are you there?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I think there's two mic on.
Yeah. Now is it better? Yeah.
Yeah, now it's fine. There were two questions which were repetitions, so I'll move on to the next question.
Yes.
While citing a reference from an article, should we cite the author who has cited another article in his own words, or should we cite the primary article?
The primary article are the sentences in which you have taken the information from. As I showed you the different types of plagiarism, when you just cite the author who you have taken the information, but you have failed to cite the author which has been cited in that particular article, it can show as plagiarism. So the best solution to this is to cite the original article, the original proponent of that particular article.
Is there any software which is available that can be used for converting phonemes to words in Indian languages?
I'm not aware.
Okay.
I'm not aware. There are softwares which can be used for language analysis like SALT, etc. But for conversion, I'm not.
Yeah, NAPS is there. Conversion, I'm not sure. Okay. I think that's all for the questions. Any more questions? Please type it in. Okay. I would like to say Dr. Abhishek has meticulously highlighted the various search engines, how to use them, which are the free tools, and how can you get premium versions which can help you use it better. And he has briefed on various writing tools, which is very useful for us, and especially for the beginners in research. I think they do help a lot to frame grammatically correct sentences and to have a flow in the content. I think those tools are very much useful. And since there were multiple topics, we have concised and covered up maximum areas to the maximum extent possible. I think it was very useful and very well presented. I think we can have more detailed, elaborated presentations on each topic because that requires more time as such. So I would like to thank Dr. Abhishek for a wonderful presentation. And I would like to thank AIISH office for helping in organizing this webinar, and all the editorial members of JISHA. I would like to thank all the participants for actively participating in the webinar.
Thank you, AIISH for the opportunity. And as you said specifically, within 1 hour or 1 hour 15 minutes, it is difficult to provide features of each specific tool, based on what is the need. If they want more on reference managers or more based on the need, probably we can have further sessions on it. Okay, anyways, thanks for the opportunity.
Abhishek, we can have an extended presentation also regarding this related to reference manager if you are ready. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you for this comprehensive presentation, and thank you all audience for making our JISHA webinar a grand success. Thank you all. We can wind up the session. Yes, Shwetha?
Yeah, and I just would like to add, there are many more topics coming up as webinars. So stay tuned. We have on it goes in with the increasing complexity. So we started with the introduction to research from the basic topic. So as the research moves on, the topics have been chosen. So there are topics on systematic analysis and other related areas also. So I hope most audience would get benefited out of it.
Yeah. Even in feedback form, you people can suggest us the few topics also. That will help us to provide you that topics and to solve the better presenter for you to benefit you all. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you so much.